Alright, hello. Today is going to be a bit of a different video, and for reference, this video is being recorded on Thursday morning, which means that right about now, Florida is being, well, let's call it attacked by the Hurricane Milton, and I've been looking at all this stuff. I've had some friends in Florida that I'm genuinely scared for themselves and their properties, so to all of you involved in that shit, like, best of luck out there. I pray that nothing happens to you guys and that you're all okay. But this is not what we're gonna talk about this video, but I wanted to mention it because it just sucks, man. We're gonna talk about one of the reworks that happened, and that's gonna be Nova. So, if you're familiar with old Nova, or even if you were a Nova main, you're probably gonna like this video a lot. Because I don't know if you have seen for the forums in Warframe, but Nova mains have been, well, very unhappy with how the game is right now on Nova herself. Like, there has been quite a bit of drama in the forums about her. So I tried to delay this video as much as possible because I was expecting a hotfix to see if Nova was going to receive any changes, but there has not been a hotfix in about a week, and I cannot wait anymore. And in fact, I don't even know how there is no hotfix in the game right now because the game is in a horrible state when it comes to playing it. There is so many bugs that if by tomorrow there has not been a hotfix, you're gonna see me upload a video reading every single bug that I and other people have encountered that is disruptive in terms of gameplay. With that out of the way, let's go to Nova herself. So first of all, we're going to talk about the good stuff that happened to the rework, and then we're going to talk about the pointless stuff that happened in the rework, and finally the, well, bad stuff that happened in the rework. So, well, let's start on positively. New passive. Very good passive. Enemies killed while slowed, drop health orbs. Enemies killed while sped up, drop energy orbs. Now, absolutely amazing passive, especially in squad play. I don't like listening to that, so sorry. Enemies that killed while sped up, which is usually what you want to do in a squad play. You usually play Speed Nova, and you just drown your team in energy orbs. It's absolutely amazing. Your team loves this passive. It's so good. You love this passive. Your team loves you because of this passive. This is just absolutely amazing. And you have to remember that the previous passive was useless. It had to do with getting knocked down, which now doesn't happen because guess what? We use Prime Sure-Footed on almost everything. So there is knockdown immunity. And back in the day, that knockdown immunity did not exist. So she needed some kind of defensive tool if she was knocked down so she doesn't die. But since that doesn't happen anymore, well, it was useless and it needed to be changed. So really good new passive. Up next, the first ability has the base amount of the antimatter particles be a lot larger, 12, which means that as well with the damage reduction scaling with strength, you can easily hit that 90% cap and have some orbs left so you don't have to recast the ability so often, which is really good. Just absolutely amazing change here. And if that's not enough, the damage reduction actually works on your shields now. Back in the day, it only worked on health, so you had to build a health tank Nova, which on higher levels didn't feel that good. It felt a bit lackluster with Nova's base armor being low. You needed to mod for armor and get Tau for charge and all that, and it just genuinely didn't feel good. But now with shields having an innate 50% damage reduction, 10 on shields specifically, and this ability working on shields, Nova has a constant 95% DR. Really nice. Nova loves these changes. So next, the third ability lasts forever. This is really nice, and Nova mains love this ability, so this ability getting buffs is absolutely welcome. And there is a popular build around these days that abuse this mechanic that we're gonna take a look at. You probably know which build I'm talking about, but I have to talk about it a bit further because there are issues with that build. Not regarding Nova, but regarding the game, and it will probably get fixed. So if you know what I mean, stick to this or move the timestamp. There will be timestamps so you can see, and if you wonder what I'm going to talk about, but yeah. And the fourth ability received some nice changes. The most important one for me is the fact that the damage vulnerability now works on anything. It works on Overguard, shields, and health. So back in the day, Overguard was not a thing. So the ability working on health meant it would work on Grenier and infested enemies fully, and it would be sort of weak against Corpus, who were in fact really weak and died pretty easily, so it didn't matter. So really good changes here. Overall, these are all fantastic changes. Now let's go to some pointless ones. If I will select a different build so I can actually see all of the abilities. Sorry. So, pointless changes. Number one, you can now hold your 3 to see where it will land. I mean, sure thing, but it does not really matter because nobody's gonna aim their 3 while in the air or see what depth it is. You will just kind of press the ability wherever you need to place it and just fly. I mean, it's not rocket science. And then some other things that are useless. Molecular Fissure, the augment for her 4, now allows your Null Star to use Molecular Prime onto enemies that it hits. I mean, why would you ever need this? Because Molecular Prime has 10 times the amount of range that Null Star does, and it even goes to wall. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand this at all. It doesn't really make sense to me. And the last one that doesn't really matter for the most part is the abilities dealing blast damage. Now, this would matter if Antimatter Drop, well, wasn't dead. Which brings me onto a good transition to talk about Antimatter Drop. This is a dead ability. Sadly. It is so bad now. It is incredible how bad this ability is now. Like, it pains. It pains me to see. So there are very few abilities now that don't have LOS checks, and probably Equinox's 4 is the next one coming, let's be honest. Equinox desperately needs a rework, probably the worst Warframe in the game right now, despite her nuking ability. She is by far, in my opinion, the worst Warframe in the game, and she desperately needs a rework. And her 4 now is probably one of the few abilities that don't have LOS checks in terms of dealing damage anymore, so that is painful. And why is it painful? Well, originally, seeing Antimatter Drop changes, I thought, oh, Antimatter will be good, because now it scales with range and its damage is buffed. Wow, that will be really nice. Well, despite the LOS check being absolutely bullshit, because one pixel or being in a staircase simply means, oh, I don't deal damage to the enemies that is right next to the ability because there is a staircase in front, haha. It also means that, well, modding for that range is kind of pointless. The ability has a 15-meter radius by default, so if you have an ability with LOS checks, usually anything above 20 meters really doesn't matter because it's gonna get LOS checked anyway. But if that's not enough, the ability's damage is nerfed. Now you may say, how is it nerfed? There wasn't any damage decrease from the base damage, and the damage absorption wasn't decreased, and in fact it's probably buffed because you can now shoot it more times even if it's fully stacked, because you have a limit of, I believe, 5 shots before it actually stops gaining damage. So that is really good. Well, it would be if we, for some reason, didn't remove the interaction with Vigorous Swap and Arcane Arachne, where it could buff the ability's damage. For some reason now, Arcane Arachne and Vigorous Swap simply don't buff the ability's damage anymore. Why? Who the fuck knows? Well, before, I could make this ability easily do 1 million, and if I mod it specifically for the ability, I could easily make it do 2 million. Now, the ability barely does 500,000 damage at most, and I modded it for 350% strength to get that. It's laughable. It really is. It's laughable. It's laughable. This does nothing. This is a dead ability. It is a dead ability. And if the E wants to have LOS checks, why take my damage away? Why should I not be able to kill level 500 enemies with this ability if you want to have LOS checks with it? Why should it stop at level 170? This is a massive nerf to Antimatter Drop, and it has now become my main 2 subsume ability instead of my 3. It is absolutely insane. This is absolutely a dead ability. It's so bad. It's legit so bad compared to what it was. Now, you will be like, okay, I can still one-shot level 150 and still path doesn't go above level 200, so surely it's still good for most of the stuff. Well, it's still worse than the previous version, guys. I mean, we lost damage, we lost LOS checks, and what we gained is range on the ability. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, unfortunately. So, yeah. And then, you know, this, I mean, I don't know what I would do to fix it. I don't know if adding the LOS back is a good idea. Probably not, but it feels really bad to have a LOS checking an ability that is so unique. And, well, if you want to scale it with range, you know, do one of the two things. Either add LOS back to it, which probably would be problematic, or you could bring back the interaction between Arcane Arachne and Vigorous Swap so we can increase the damage again. Because now it's the ability is bad. It's genuinely bad. I do not use the ability ever, and this build was just me testing, and I simply do not use it anymore. It's gone. Matter of fact, I had 6 builds on Nova, and now I only use 3. But yeah, let's go to the second really problematic thing, and this is the biggest one in my opinion. Molecular Prime. This ability had a build that was detrimental to Nova going to level cap missions. And this build was called Neutral Nova. So picture yourself that you're in a squad. The squad, you're with your friends. Your friends say, oh guys, I want to go to level cap. And you're a Nova main, right? You're gonna go to level cap with a squad. Let's talk like we are on pre-rework Nova and you wanna go level cap. What type of build would you take to go to level cap with your Nova? Would you take Speed Nova or Slow Nova? Well, if you take Slow Nova, then you're useless for 90% of the mission, and the moment enemies reach level 5000 where your teammates start dying, then you can actually use the Slow Nova and help out just a bit. Not like it's gonna matter a lot, you still get one shot, but at least the enemies are slowed and you deal double damage to them. Do you pick Speed Nova? Well, you'll be useful for 90% of the mission, but the moment you reach level 1000, the mission becomes fucking impossible. It's absolutely insane. You get one shot from every single direction because the enemy attack speed is through the roof and they're fucking one-shotting you. So the solution to this problem was a build called Neutral Nova. So what is Neutral Nova exactly? So if we go to config F, I didn't used to have an ability strength Talford shard, which is this one. As you see, it adds me 15% ability strength. So if on this build we just add Intensify, we get 70% strength. It's 85 because of the sword, but it's 70% strength. If you had 70% strength on Nova before the rework, you would get a build called Neutral Nova. And this would make it so that your slow is on exactly 0%, meaning the enemies wouldn't be sped up and they wouldn't be sped down. Instead, the enemies would keep their speed exactly as it is, but because Molecular Prime primes them and adds a 200% damage vulnerability, enemies would simply take double damage for the entire mission. So Neutral Nova as a support Warframe in the mission, seeing how Molecular Prime LOS checks everything, is absolutely bonkers. It is ridiculously good to have in the squad. It's gone. It's dead. There is no Neutral Nova anymore. You know why? Because there is enemy slow or enemy speed, and the lowest amount of strength that you can go, which is 10%, gets this ability to a 5% slow. You may be like, that's not too bad, 5% slow or 5% speed up. Well, yeah, but the bad thing about it is that Mulestar goes down to a 0% damage reduction per particle. That's right. 0%. So the ability becomes useless. It literally becomes absolutely useless. Garbage. Does nothing. You shouldn't even press it at all. So what? You're just gonna become a molecular bot? Is that it? Is that your your contribution to your squad when you go this build? It's dead. And it's so easy to fix this. Like, you know how Molecular Prime has a toggle? No, it doesn't have a toggle. It has a hold and tap mechanic. Well, I can think of a million other Warframes that have a toggle mechanic. You press 1 on Wisp, it swaps between Vitality, Haste, and Choke, and when you hold the ability, it casts one of these 3. Oh, new Caliban, just released. You press 3, it swaps between Conculus, Ortholis, or Simulus, and then you hold it and it actually spawns them. Titania, you press 2, it swaps between the 4 buffs. It's not even 3, it's 4 different buffs. And then holding the ability casts one of the buffs onto the enemy. And then, you know, there is actually so many more. Ivara's one. It's just, there is many Warframes that have this mechanic. But for some reason, Nova has a tap hold mechanic, and simply putting slow speed and neutral onto the ability and then holding one of them after selecting them actually cast the ability is a problem. It really shouldn't be. It's such a simple fix, and I'm expecting this to happen. So basically, imagine you're someone who just started playing Nova. You accidentally click the slow ability because you didn't hold it down. It has happened to me many times. But then you run out of energy. You don't have energy anymore. So you can recast your forward to actually fix it. And now the mission has slowed down, your team hates you, and you have fucked up your life support. Well, GG, I guess. Like, you see the problem? This would fix one of the problem, and this would also make everyone happy, because guess what? Neutral Nova was something that is actually just so important to have on a squad that wants to go for high-level gameplay. And high-level gameplay, since the game has now become super easy, is very, very popular nowadays. So something like Neutral Nova needs to be in the game, because Nova survives onto this. Nova is useful for squads because of Neutral Nova existing into the game. And now it's just gone. So, yeah. Big upset. Everyone hates this. Everyone is begging in the forums for this to return. And yeah, I'll have a pinned comment below that you will see Voltage's post on Nova. There are some stuff that obviously not everyone agrees, and he's talking about augments and shit. I'm just talking about abilities in general. There are some decent recommendations for sure on his post, like Nova's third ability augment, giving projectile flight speed to your weapons. That would be really cool. Like after you exit the portal, you have besides movement speed, extra movement speed, you have projectile flight speed onto your weapons. Would be interesting. Now, would it be very useful, and would it make the portal augment worth it? Probably not, except you're doing some sort of mechanic or some sort of synergy. But there is definitely uses for it. Escape velocity is a decent augment and has a decent duration and doesn't scale with strength, which is really important, because on a build that you want to use it, you don't want strength. You simply don't. You just want duration and range, which Nova thrives at building in. So, really good. But yeah, fourth ability needs some changes. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is the first ability, and specifically the Neutron Star augment. So this augment got extremely buffed by this update. It now deals a ton of damage to the enemies on every cast, but there is a big, and I mean a big issue when it comes to this. There is a recast delay onto Nova's one, innately. So this got added because not only is the augment too strong, so spamming it would be extremely efficient at killing, but this ability is the subsume. So other Warframes would absolutely destroy everything if Neutron Star was recastable. But this means that Nova herself has to suffer from the success of other Warframes like Rhino and Lavos abusing this ability to the max. Now Lavos, you know, he doesn't really care about the cooldown because he works on cooldowns, he doesn't have energy. But for example, something like Rhino, you could even add a 5 or a 10 second cooldown to this ability, and he would still love this. Like, I have a fucking pocket nuke that I can send out to enemies every 10 seconds. This is crazy. Because I don't know if you've seen a Ballistics video, but Neutron Star on Rhino is fucking insane. It really is insane. At the same time, on Nova, Neutron Star needs at least 2 or 3 casts to kill enemies into Still Path. So this means that even though Neutron Star is absolutely goated on some other frames, on Nova herself, it's not the best thing in the world because there is that recast delay, and if it didn't happen, then me recasting the ability 2 or 3 times to kill the enemies is absolutely fine. But me recasting the ability every 2.5 seconds and needing to cast it 2 or 3 times, no. Absolutely not. Like, that is painful. So my simple suggestion to this is this. You keep Neutron Star as it is, maybe you nerf its damage. You can simply nerf its damage by a little bit to take it like down to 200 now. That's still gonna be fine for Nova herself, and even other Warframes that want to abuse Neutron Star. But on the subsume of Neutron Star, you nerf the cooldown to 5 seconds instead of 2.5, and on Nova herself, there is no recast delay anymore. Just like it was pre-update, pre-rework. The thing that exists with the recast delay has made this build subpar to what it used to be. And it's not even funny, because before, this was actually good at destroying low-level missions. Now it doesn't destroy low-level missions, and it struggles in Steel Path, so this has achieved basically nothing, unfortunately. There are ways to go around it. You could pick Warframes that would innately buff Nova, let's say Nidus, Grendel, and Rhino himself, because Roar is an AoE. But doing all this just to get one nuke every 2.5 seconds is not really worth it. And if we are looking at that level of team play, I'm pretty sure when Nidus Wisps exists in the game the way it is, that Nova with that level of support should be able to one-shot even up to level 500 by casting the ability 2 or 3 times. And that would be absolutely fine for the game. Because guess what? This ability, this augment, has been nerfed twice already. Back in the day when it was introduced, it had no LOS checks and the range was 15 meters. Now it has LOS checks and the range is 8 meters. Half of what it used to be. So, yeah. It's not a problem if Nova uses it. It's a problem if other people, other Warframes, would actually use it. So, yeah. Last thing I can talk about that is not that big, but it's still noticeable, is that there is a small delay on Wormhole. So when you cast this ability, now it checks if you're actually holding the ability or if you're casting it instantly, and there is a slight delay compared to what it used to be. This wouldn't be important, and it's not important if you play solo, but if you don't play solo and if you play in a squad, if you have, let's say, 100 ping and you have no casting speed, you'll go through your portal every single time. So that means it's inconsistent. This is a very easy fix. You can simply speed up the animation a bit of you casting the portal like base. D has done that a lot of times with Max 4 and her augment, for example. And it's not something that is out of the ordinary, but I wanted to mention it because it is really annoying when it comes to playing with a squad. And if you want to play with me, for example, many people, when they play with me, they get 150 to 200 ping, and portal is simply unusable for them. It really is. So, yeah, that is everything about Nova's rework. If you want the best build for right now, if you want a best build for Nova, it would be this one. And if you want to see the other build for Nova, it would be this one. Now, molecular efficient doesn't really matter here. It's just there for whatever reason. You really don't need any mods on this build. As long as you go overextended, this build is pretty much complete, and that's it. So, let's see what it does. Because, boy, I mean, yeah. So you take Nataruk, you put as little amount of range as possible onto Nova herself, and then you go at least 150% strength, and the build is done. So, we get the tile set immediately to showcase this at its best, at its peak, let's say. So you go right here on the hallway, you create your Capcan trap, as I like to call it. If you played Rainbow Six Siege, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So one here, and then the other one should be... Oops, that doesn't matter, but whatever. Right here. So, as long as the end of it is before your other portal, this works. And now you take the bow of your choice, which will be either Nataruk, Sinta, Paris, or Dread Incarnates, and that is because those bows have infinite body punch through. And the important thing that you need to have here is that infinite body punch through and nothing else really. Oops. So you shoot into every portal 5 to 6 times. Do it for the other one. Fuck's sake. Alright, there we go. So this is the Capcan build. As you see, swords are constantly firing, apparently. And this is not actually a visual bug, this is actually happening. And this is nice if you can balance it out to treat your headshots and all that, and it can get really crazy. So we speed up the enemies, and as you can see, it's hitting them normally, and because it can treat your headshots and arcanes, now it's dealing a lot of damage, and longbow sharpshot is constantly procced. So obviously, this will deal very, very big damage. And, well, even though this build is amazing, yes, and it is really funny that Nova can do something like this and benefit, there is a big problem with it. It is an AFK build, as people like to call it. And because it is an AFK build, and because all this is happening, it will not stay in the game. D does not like AFK playstyles, they do not condone it, and they want to avoid them as much as possible. So this being in the game is an absolute problem, and because this is in the game and this is known and D doesn't like it, it can lead to really bizarre stuff. For example, D can now try to ban you if you abuse this for a long period of time in a mission. They can. They may not choose to, but if they want to, they can ban your account for any reason. So if they don't like you doing this over and over for 24 hours a day, they could literally ban your account. This one will get 100% fixed. It's the reason why I'm not showing it in a video on its own and I'm talking about it here, because this build is a genuine problem that is in the game right now and something that D is gonna fix probably in the nearest future. I don't know if it's gonna be the next hotfix, the next update, or whatever. But honestly, I'm just hoping that the next hotfix for the game will be very soon, and I'm hoping that in the hotfix we will see more changes to Nova because she really needs them. So, once again, best build for her right now. Twitch and Discord links in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.